Good morning. We are Facebook Live. It's Tuesday Tip Day. Welcome. I'm happy you're joining me today. My name is Dawn Spiegelberg of Bodywise Bodywork, and I'm just back from some time on the East Coast. We flew into Philadelphia and returned last night super duper late at about 10 o'clock is when we came in. You can see the sun is shining behind us. We brought that back for all of you. So you're welcome for that. Today we're going to talk about stimulus and response, love and family. And before we do that, I want to say thanks to everyone who has kept up to speed with me on my water theme. It is about alkaline water, the things that we can put in water, and how often you can drink water. Well, on vacation I did not consume alkaline water, and I was slightly worried about that because I wasn't sure how my body would respond to the change after being on alkaline water for about 14 days. That 14-day change was pivotal. It began the journey, the long journey, of finally healing my insides. I've had a history of abdominal inflammation for quite a while. Welcome to my family members who have just joined us. Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Diane. Woohoo! Welcome. So in referring to water and the kinds of things you can do with water, one really easy thing you can do to make it taste better is to just shake it up before you drink it. That's amazing. It adds more oxygen to the water that you're consuming. And when it comes to water and diet changes, I have done so many things in relation to making changes, decreasing the kinds of food I've eaten, changing, just cutting out foods in particular. And it came down to wondering if I should consider fasting and being off of food entirely in order to change my intestinal health. And while I'm still considering that, I'll do some research on fasting and the benefits of fasting, and we will discuss that on Friday's show. But today, I want to talk about stimulus and response, love and family, and the kinds of things that I learned when I was back east, visiting with family. Honestly, I can share with you that I really didn't want to go. I didn't want to take the kids out of school for a week. There's a lot of catching up that we have to do. I didn't want to go because we were pressured to go. I wanted to go because we chose to go, and underlying the requests to visit us, to have us visit our family, there was, when are you coming back? Lots of questions about when are you coming to see us? Why haven't you been back in a while? And I'd much rather go see family because we want to and not because it's an obligation. And when it feels like an obligation, there are, of course, underlying stories behind why it would feel obligatory to go back. And that's the discussion I want to have today. And it's about the stories that create us, the stories that contribute to what's happening in our lives that make us respond in particular ways. And I heard a few years ago a little tenet, I don't even remember where I heard it from, but it was about what happens in us and in our bodies. And particularly we'd study it in the nervous system, but it's also true in our emotional system. And I drew this teeny little funny diagram for you. And here it is. It says, can you read it? Maybe not. It says stimulus and response. There it is. So for every stimulus and before a response, there is always a period of time. So when something happens, you often forget that there is a period of time from which you can take a moment, take a break, and respond to it. And situations happen to me where it seems that I get a knee-jerk reaction and I'm trying to change those. The knee-jerk reactions that we have, the automated responses we have, are based on stories and the belief systems that we have. And I can say there was a situation over the weekend where I was speaking with my brother, And he had made it very clear that he was not happy with the fact that I was calling on the same day that I asked if he was available to get together. And what I realized was not that he was really concerned about the fact that I had waited so long. It wasn't the fact that he was busy and couldn't necessarily change his schedule. That moment of time after he had the conversation with me and before I responded, what I noticed was my feelings. And my feelings included feeling badly about his concern and his distress that I had waited so long to contact him. And of course, there's always stories, there's always history, there's always two sides of a situation. And as a matter of fact, in studies of motor vehicle accidents and incidents that happen, and when there are interviews of individuals who have been present at the accident, every story has a slight difference. None of the stories are actually the same, and what they discovered is that what we believe and our perspective is what influences how we respond in the stories that we have. So when my brother was speaking with me and complaining that I had not contacted him sooner than 4 or 5 hours before I was due to drive down near his city, what I found was not that I was just feeling badly about making a mistake, but the deeper story was that I was feeling like I was a bad person. And that's my story. And when I got off the phone with him, I realized that that's something that could really get between us, a situation where I made a mistake. And it's not just that I had made a mistake, but that he was recognizing the mistake and calling me out on the mistake that I had made. And I didn't just apologize and feel badly about making a mistake. I interpreted that as me being a bad person, which is not true. There are no bad people. I don't believe that there are bad people. I believe that people can do things that are bad, things that are good. But deep inside us, we all have a life purpose. We're all spirits having a physical body and a life experience. And when we interpret things as making us appear to be bad or us as being bad people, that's where we have to stop. And that's where the responses that we have are not true and they're not based in truth. So when there is a stimulus in your life, let me encourage you to remember that there is always a bit of time. You probably can't see my little piece of paper here, but here it is, time. There is always time. Time for you to take a moment and reflect, time for you to understand what the story is from a different perspective. There is always time for you to understand where your story comes from and whether it's true or not. And the most important thing we can do for each other is to identify really what is true. What I understood after my conversation was that it was true that I had made a mistake. It was also true that a mistake like that could get between my brother and I and the connection that we have. And I didn't allow that to happen. I called back. I removed my own feelings of being a bad person. I admitted my mistake and I called and apologized. And we had a conversation that lasted for quite some time. And I see now that the most important thing in regard to living our lives is seeing the truth of what is, and the truth of family, the truth of ourselves. And I encourage you to seek the truth. And today, especially with the election, whatever happens, sit in the truth that we are a country, that we can live by the truth, and it is the truth that comes from within us that we can stand by. While we may not be able to influence the outcome of the election in the way in which we prefer, what you can do is influence your life right now and the people around you and the people you do come in contact with. So I encourage you today to remember that for every stimulus, you have the time to respond and to choose your response. And my mother-in-law says that family is the most important thing that we have. And while a part of that I believe is true, I think if we don't understand our own selves first and the stories that create who we are and contribute to our lives and the perspectives that we have on our lives, we can't truly appreciate family and the things around us. So have a wonderful election day. Love your family, love yourself, and for every stimulus, remember that before you respond, there is a period of time from which you can choose what response you would like to take. And with that, I wish you a wonderful day. And I'm going to cut out with this. Remember to think head-wise, feel heart-wise, and move body-wise. Thanks, and I'll see you on Friday.